Welcome back to my video lesson on Learn Biology with Ease. Now, in the course of today's class, I'll be answering 40 questions that cut across every single topics in biology. Now, you can see the first question written on the board. It says, a simple cell contains stored. Now, it's saying if a simple cell contains stored kinetic energy, that is option A, stored electric force, that is option B, stored electric energy, that's option C, and option D is stored chemical potential energy. Now, it must be noted that a simple cell is like saying a unicellular cell. That is a single cell organism. Now, it must be noted that a simple cell or a unicellular organism basically contains stored chemical potential energy. It must be noted that a simple cell contains stored chemical potential energy. This is the answer to the question. Okay, it can't even be electrical force, but it is not electrical energy nor kinetic energy. The answer to the question is chemical potential energy. Organisms store their energy in the form of what now? ATP, okay, chemical ATP, which is basically called adenosine triphosphate. So the answer to the question, the best answer is chemical potential energy. The next question says, one of the following statements is not of viruses. So it's asking, when we check the statements in the options, the one that is not correlating to viruses becomes the answer. So they said one of the following statements is not of viruses. Option A, they are microscopic organisms, or you say they are microorganisms. Yes, viruses are microorganisms. They can't be seen with the naked eyes. We see them with the aid of a microscope. But it must be noted, viruses are viewed with the aid of electron microscope. So they are microorganisms, which is correct. They are smaller than bacteria. Yes, viruses are smaller than bacteria. Option C, they can be seen with ordinary light microscope. No, viruses can't be seen with ordinary light microscope. I said just now that viruses can be seen with the aid of what now? An electron microscope. Okay, electron, not light microscope. Electron microscope, not light microscope. So this statement is false. So basically, this is the statement that is not true of a virus. Okay, this is statement that is not true of a virus, because option D says they can cause smallpox, polios. Yes, viruses can cause smallpox, which is caused by a virus called the pox virus, and also cause poliomyelitis, basically caused by a virus called the polio virus. Okay, it must be noted that poliomyelitis is also called infantile paralysis. So basically, the best answer to the question is option C, because they can't be seen with ordinary light microscope. So they are seen with the aid of electron microscope. Now let's proceed to question 3. Question 3 says, the part of the cell which is responsible for oxidation of food to release energy is the... Now it must be noted that the part of the cell for oxidation of food molecule to release energy is basically the mitochondria. Okay, the answer is the mitochondria. It is not the chloroplast, because the chloroplast is the site for photosynthesis in plants. Okay, now it is not gene, because for the gene, this is basically the basic unit of heredity. Okay, that is not correct. Chloroplast is not, because chloroplast is for photosynthesis in a plant, and cytoplasm is not. This is the liquid portion of a cell. And for the mitochondria, yes, it is where oxidation of food substances occur to release energy. So that is why option D becomes the answer. Now moving over to question 4, it says poor vision in dim light can be corrected by taking a drug or food containing... Okay, so they are asking us for all of these vitamins. Which of these vitamins here basically contributes to good eyesight? So because they are saying dim light can be corrected, so we are talking about which vitamins here now basically will help for the correction of this dim light to get a bright eye sight. So for the options here, option A says vitamin K. Vitamin K is not. Vitamin K, when it's deficient, it leads for inability for blood to clot, which is called phyloquinone. But vitamin B, we have various B complex. This can't be the answer. And vitamin D, which is called calciferol, for good bones, strong bones. Okay, when deficient, it can lead to weakness of the bones, which is basically termed osteomalacia in adults and rickets in children. That's what option D called calciferol. But moving over to option A, it's called retinol. It helps for good eyesight. So this becomes the answer. The person or should consume drug or take food containing vitamin A. So let's quickly move over to question 5. It says, which of these is a direct photosynthesis product? So first of all, we have to write the equation for photosynthesis to see which is the direct product. Now, for photosynthesis, carbon dioxide, which is CO2, react with water, which is H2O, in the presence of a catalyst, in the form of a catalyst, we call it chlorophyll, and in the presence of light. When this reaction occurs, we'll get a product called C6H12O6, and this is called glucose, and we'll get oxygen. But the question you ask yourself, is this reaction balanced? No, we have to balance. So when we want to balance, we put 6 moles of carbon dioxide here, 6 moles of hydrogen here, water here, and 6 moles of oxygen. Now the reaction is balanced. So you can see here we've got oxygen and we've got directly glucose. So what becomes the answer to this question? Which of these is a direct photosynthesis product? The answer is glucose. Okay, it is not amino acid. Amino acids are the monomer unit of proteins. Okay, they mix up proteins. Proteins are giant molecules. You say proteins are polymers. And option C, lactase, and option D, starch. So basically the answer to the question from the question just deduced is option A, which is called glucose. So you can see how questions are being tackled. So I'll be solving 40 questions. So let's quickly move over to question 6. Now let's quickly move over to question 6. Question 6 says 6 moles of carbon dioxide reacting with 6 moles of water in the presence of sunlight and in the presence of chlorophyll will get C6H12O6, that is called glucose, plus 6 moles of oxygen. Now the reaction is balanced. So what next? The question says the process represented by the above equation is very easy. Option A, protein synthesis. No, for this it is not relating to this equation. Protein synthesis is done by an organelle in a cell called ribosome. So the ribosome basically does the protein synthesis in a cell. Option B, respiration. This is not the equation for respiration. Option C, photosynthesis. This is the equation of photosynthesis. So there's something you have to take note of here. Basically, an equation that is influenced by light basically is called a photochemical equation. So whenever you just see light in the equation, what comes to your mind is photosynthesis. So basically, this is the equation for photosynthesis. But if it was respiration, it becomes the reverse. That means everything here at the product goes to the reactant, and everything here at the reactant goes to the product. So that forms the equation for respiration. But this equation is called the equation for photosynthesis. Now, the next question says, kwashiorkor is caused by severe deficiency of option A, water, option B, oil, option C, protein, and option D, drugs. Basically, kwashiorkor is caused due to the deficiency of a class of food called proteins. Okay, now it must be noted that kwashiorkor is seen in children, and another protein deficiency called marasmus is seen in adults. This must be noted. So kwashiorkor, marasmus are protein deficiencies. Okay, kwashiorkor is seen in children, marasmus is seen in adults. So that is for that. So question 8 says the sugar fructose is an isomer of maltose, sucrose, glucose, and lactose. Basically, the answer is option C, which is glucose. because isomer means these compounds, they have the same chemical formula but different structural arrangement. That is isomer. So it must be noted that the chemical formula of glucose is C6H12O6. Same applies to the same chemical formula for fructose. It is C6H12O6. But the difference between them is in their structure. When I draw their structure, but they have the same chemical formula. And for all these other options, they are not even isomer of fructose. This is because they are not monosaccharide. Recall, fructose and glucose are monosaccharides. Okay, that is, they are just single sugars. But for all these guys, they are disaccharide. For we to get maltose, how many molecules of glucose do we need? Two. So for maltose, it is formed by reacting glucose and glucose. While for sucrose, it is formed by reacting glucose and fructose. While for lactose, it is formed by reacting glucose and galactose. So you can see this very important point you have to take note of. Let's quickly move over to question 9. It says, which of the following is not a vitamin deficiency disease? Option A, which is night blindness, yes, is a vitamin deficiency disease. Basically, it's due to the deficiency of vitamin A, okay, which is called retinol. Vitamin B deficiency, vitamin deficiency disease, which is due to the deficiency of vitamin C, called ascorbic acid. Kwashiorkor is due to a class of food called protein, okay, protein. So this becomes the answer. It is not a vitamin deficiency disease. While pellagra is due to the deficiency of vitamin B3, okay, vitamin B3 called niacin, okay, niacin, which is formed by two other vitamins called nicotinic acid and also nicotinamide. Okay, so that is that for that. So for question 10, it says the kitchen house of a cell is called the chloroplast. Okay, this is something you must take note of. The kitchen house of a cell is called the chloroplast. Why is it called the chloroplast? Because basically the chloroplast is for photosynthesis, and photosynthesis is a process whereby these plants produce their own food. So whenever I just hear the word food and kitchen house, it deals with what now? The chloroplast of a cell is created to plants. Okay, this must be noted. So let's quickly move over to question 11. Now let's quickly move over to question 11. Now question 11 says the instrument used to measure blood pressure is the so moving over to question 12, it says the wave of the heart is called the pulse. Okay, the wave of the heart is called the pulse. Question 13 says vitamin in blood important for the part it plays in coagulation is the vitamin which helps in coagulation of blood. Basically is vitamin K, called phylloquinone. Okay, is vitamin K. Now for question 14, it says the class of food that gives most energy for the body basically is fat and oil. Okay, fat and oil, this is the class of food that gives most energy. Now question 15 says the glottis is the opening which lead to dash, basically which leads to the esophagus, the larynx, we also call the voice box, the nostril, or the pharynx. The answer goes to the pharynx. So basically this is the answer to the question. Okay, the pharynx. It must be noted that the glottis basically is the opening which leads toward now the pharynx, and the covering or the opening from the glottis is called the epiglottis. Now let's quickly move over to question 16. Now question 16 says a plant which has a horizontal underground stem is called a rhizome. Okay, this is the answer. It is seen in fern. Okay, and fern is a pteridophyte. So basically roots, or we say stems, okay, that grow horizontally underground, basically they are called rhizome. So that is for that. So question 17 says the term genetics was coined by William Bateson, Robert Hooke, Charles Darwin, and none of the above. That's option D. Basically, the answer is option A, which is Williams Bateson. Okay, Robert Hooke brought about the theory of cell, and Charles Darwin brought about some discoveries like natural selection. Okay, in conjunction with Wallace. Okay, basically, so the answer is option A, which is Williams Bateson. So question 18 says the random change in the genetic information of a cell is called mutation. Okay, it's not called heredity, it is not called gene, and it's not called genetic flow. Okay, it's called mutation. And it must be noted that mutation leads to what we call variation. Okay, mutation leads to variation. Now, question 19 says the sugar found in the ribonucleic acid, basically or otherwise called RNA, is just called or is a sugar called ribose. You can see from the word ribo. So the sugar here is called ribose. It is not called glucose. Ribose is a 5-carbon sugar. Okay, ribose is a 5-carbon sugar. So what becomes the chemical formula of ribose? It is C5H10O5, because the general formula for carbohydrates is like you say, the simplest formula is CH2O. So when this is a 5-carbon sugar, so definitely it has 5 carbon. So here it becomes 10. Okay, because this 5 is affecting everything. So here it becomes 10 because 5 times 2 10, and oxygen, which is 1 1, still bears this 5. So that's the chemical formula for 5-carbon sugar. For glucose is a 6-carbon sugar, which is basically C6H12O6. Deoxyribose is a 5-carbon sugar, but deoxyribose is not found in RNA but rather found in DNA. DNA contains just 2 sugars. We have ribose and deoxyribose, but for just ribonucleic acid, the sugar found is called ribose only, which is a 5-carbon sugar, and maltose is not even a monosaccharide but rather is a disaccharide formed by 2 glucose moieties. So that is for that. Question 20 says the unit of heredity is called gene. Okay, the unit of heredity is called gene that determines the character or trait in a particular individual. So that is for that. So let's quickly move over to question 21. Now let's quickly move over to question 21. And question 21 says the largest and dominant part of the brain is called the cerebrum. Okay, the answer goes to the cerebrum. The cerebrum is the largest and the most dominant part of the brain. You know, the cerebrum is under the forebrain because the brain is divided into 3 regions. We have the forebrain, we have the midbrain, and we have the hindbrain. So the forebrain contains the cerebrum, and this is the most dominant part and the most largest part of the brain, which basically helps for intelligence, consciousness, memory, judgment, and lots more. So basically the answer goes to the cerebrum, not the medulla oblongata. Medulla oblongata basically controls reflex action, or you say involuntary action. It's not the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus controls the regulation of body temperature, hunger, taste, and lot more. So basically the answer goes to option A, which is called the cerebrum. So question 22 says the membrane that envelopes the brain and the spinal cord is the periodontal membrane. It is not the periodontal membrane. This is the membrane that covers or envelopes the tooth. So it's basically called the meninges. The answer is the meninges. It's not the pericardial membrane. Pericardial membrane is the membrane of the heart, and it's not the tonoplast. The tonoplast is the membrane of a plant cell vacuole. So the answer goes to option B, which is called meninges. Now, question 23 says the fiber band that connects the 2 halves of the cerebrum is called the corpus callosum. Okay. Basically, the answer here is corpus callosum, which is option A. Okay, it's not the thalamus or pia mater or the brain. It's called the corpus callosum. Now, for question 24 says the smallest unit of a protein is called amino acid. So it means that proteins are giant molecules. So for we to get a protein, we need monomer units, and the monomer units are called amino acids. So for question 25, it says the red blood cells are also called erythrocytes. Okay, the red blood cells are also called erythrocytes. So this is the answer to the question. Now let's quickly move over to question 26. Now let us quickly move over to question 26. Now question 26 says the gland of the body that has both digestive and endocrine function is called the pancreas gland. This must be noted because the enzymes that the pancreas gland can produce, and this enzyme works as digestive functions, and we have the likes of lipase. Okay, this is a digestive enzyme. We have the likes of amylase, and we have the likes of protease. So the point here is this: it must be noted that the pancreas gland has both digestive, these are the digestive functions, like it produces enzymes like the likes of lipase. From the word lipase, it acts on lipids. We have the likes of amylase, which act on carbohydrates, and we have the likes of protease, which act on proteins. Now, moving over to the endocrine function of the pancreas gland, it produces two hormones, okay? It produces two hormones. What are the hormones? We have the likes of glucagon and we have the likes of insulin. So these are the two hormones that the pancreas gland produces. That's why we said the pancreas gland is a gland that has both endocrine and digestive function. Now let's quickly move over to question 27. It says the hormone that stimulates the production of milk in pregnant women is called prolactin hormone. Okay, it's called the prolactin hormone. Now moving over to question 28, it says the hormone that regulates calcium level in the blood. There are two hormones. We have the likes of parathyroid hormone, the parathyroid hormone, and we have the likes of calcitonin. Okay, these are the two hormones that basically regulate calcium level in the blood. But parathyroid hormone increases the level of calcium in the blood. So for parathyroid hormone, it increases the level of calcium in the blood. While for calcitonin, it lowers the level of calcium in the blood. So the two hormones that regulate calcium level in the blood, they are parathyroid and the calcitonin hormone. Now, next hormone for question 29 says oxytocin helps to induce birth, okay, to make birth easy, induce birth. Now question 30 says the adrenal gland is located at the top of the kidney, okay, it is located at the top of the kidney, and it must be noted that kidney is an organ and the largest internal organ of the body is called the liver, but the largest external organ of the body is called the skin. So question 31 says the hormone that activates up sodium level in the blood is called aldosterone. Okay, it's called aldosterone. This is the hormone that actually activates up sodium level in the blood. Now let's quickly move over to question 32, and it says the malfunctioning of the pancreas will result in, so when the pancreas gland is malfunctioning, it results in a disease called diabetes. Okay, it results in a disease called diabetes. So that is for that. Now next question says nephritis is a disease of, nephritis is a disease of the kidney. It must be noted that nephritis, okay, so question next is the ventricular relaxation of the heart is called diastole, but the ventricular contraction of the heart is called systole. Question 35 says the part of the heart that initiates heartbeat is called the sinoatrial node. The sinoatrial node. So question 36 says the artery that supplies blood to the head and the neck is called the carotid artery. Question next. The artery that supplies blood to the arm is called the subclavian artery. Question next. The artery that supplies blood to the intestine is called the mesenteric artery. Okay, it's called the mesenteric artery. Now for the next question, it says the vein that collects blood from the heart and the neck, you can see it's opposite to this. This is artery that supplies. Now vein collects this blood from the head and the neck. That vein is called the jugular vein. Okay, it's called the jugular vein. Now for the last question, it says Salmonella typhi causes, from the word Salmonella typhi, it causes typhoid, okay, fever. Salmonella typhi causes typhoid fever. So basically, these are vision questions on the course biology. So you do well to study this and jot important points down. If you like this video, do well to hit the subscribe button and also share these videos to friends. Thank you very much and God bless you.